Well, thanks, Sean, for coming over and taking some time
Yeah,
to.
absolutely.
Yeah, so, well, first, for those that don't know, tell us about yourself, introduce yourself, and SalesRabbit a little bit in general.
Yeah, I'm Sean Huckstep, one of the co-founders of SalesRabbit. I'm currently the CRO here, so Chief Revenue Officer. And prior to starting SalesRabbit, I played soccer at college, and then I knocked doors in between school years and soccer. And so I did 3 years of knocking doors, recruiting, training, hiring, managing teams. I sold pest control, and then I did satellite TV, so telco
Oh, cool.
is what I was in, and it was a lot of fun. I learned a lot from it, and then from there we started SalesRabbit, and we've just been growing and building this company ever since then, and it's been a ride and a journey, and I've loved every minute of it.
Love it. So, so first we'll talk about how simple sales is simple and until it isn't. So, so
Couldn't be more true.
seriously. So you've been, like we said, like you've been in the trenches in door to door and leadership and now C-suite and SaaS. What's the biggest sales myth you think people still believe?
I think the biggest sales myth is that activity automatically is equated to revenue, meaning the more activity that we do, we're automatically going to get more revenue. And it doesn't correlate one-to-one in a ratio, because you can go out and knock 1,000 doors and still not get a single appointment. You could knock 10 doors and you could have 4 deals. You see that all the time in the door-to-door industry, and so naturally people are just thinking, oh, if I go out and knock more doors, if I have more conversations, that I'm automatically going to get more deals, and it doesn't always work that way. You have to have quality over just volume, and the sooner people recognize that and have confidence in their ability to produce quality, I think you see that myth be broken.
What's your philosophy? What's your philosophy on revenue growth? Do you see it as a science, a system, or a people problem?
I would say the way that I look at it is I would break it down in all three of those categories, because you have to have all three, right? The way that I look at it is probably about 60% of it is your systems, 30% of it is your people, and then 10% of it is, what was the last one you had?
Science.
Science. Yeah, and I would even look at it and maybe change it from science to the last 10% is maybe luck, is the way I look at it, because your science should come from your systems, right? If you don't have systems, you can't get the science and all the data behind it. And the reason why I say systems trump everything is because a good system, you can bring a brand new rep into it, you can get them to ramp, you can get them to produce, you can get them to success. And that means that you have a good system when you can do that over and over and over again.
Right.
And a lot of people can't do that. And that's why we see such a massive turnover in the door-to-door space. And people have to constantly be recruiting and bringing new people in, because they can't get a grasp on rep retention. And a lot of times it's because they don't have a great system. And people is 30% of that, simply because there are certain people that are just good at sales and there's people that aren't. It's not for everybody.
Yeah.
Everyone can't do it. But again, if you have a great system, it increases your likelihood to create a great seller. And then 10%, why I say that is luck. And a part of my philosophy is because timing in the markets, where you're selling at, where are you going, all of those things, there's a little bit of luck to it. People that sold solar 3 years ago versus people selling solar today.
Different ball game.
Is totally different. And people that get into solar 3 years ago versus getting into solar today, it's very different.
Oh, love it. So we hear a lot about being operationally sound. What does that mean for a door-to-door org?
Operationally sound, to me, it means that we remove the guesswork from selling and we can just execute.
Mm-hmm.
The reason for that is because when you have a good operation or a system in place, people know exactly how to get from step A to B to C and all the way to Z. Without that spelt out clearly, then people are trying to jump from A to M, back to H, and then to Z, which is the outcome you want. And it should be clear. It should be very precise. It should be dialed in. People shouldn't have to guess what they're going and doing every day, because they spend more time thinking about what should I do rather than going out and just executing on it and delivering the results that we want.
Right. Okay. And so when we talk about, building a machine as something that can be replicated over and over again, what does a healthy door-to-door org look like from the inside out?
There's several components to that. I would say a healthy company is a good recruiting company. Mm-hmm. If you can't recruit reps, you don't exist as a door-to-door company. It just doesn't happen. The companies that grow and become really successful are really great at recruiting. And then after the recruiting component, you have to create a great sales rep experience, because sometimes we jump straight to we have to create a great customer experience. It's all about the customer. In door-to-door, it's a little bit of the inverse of that. It's like if you don't have a good sales rep experience, you're not going to go out and sell deals to even create the customer experience. The customer experience is important, but I think the sales reps experience in a healthy door-to-door company precedes the customer experience, because that rep is going to create the customer experience, right?
Right.
And so you have to have things dialed in, from onboarding to system in place for them to follow, good training, content, collateral, incentives, the right comp plan. All of that is kind of bucketed under that sales rep experience. And if we don't have that, you're going to just churn and burn through your sales reps. You're not going to grow a company. You're not going to grow your brand. And at the end of the day, you're going to lose your reps to some other company that's going to do that better.
Well said. It's a balancing act. And especially with the comp plan and spiffs or whatnot, like keeping them motivated, it's very important on there. Sean, if you were a consultant for a door-to-door company doing, say, $3 million a year,
Okay.
An annual rev, what would you look at first?
The first thing I'd look at for a company that size is I'd look at their unit economics. So we start at the high level and look at CAC, or your customer acquisition costs, and then your LTV, which is your lifetime value. If you got to make sure that those ratios are in check, because if you're not making money on what your reps are producing, you're not growing as a business. And some people, they get to $1 million or $2 million or $3 million, and then they stall. They can't figure out how to get past that, because they feel like either they are discounting their services, they're paying reps too much, they have to hire more overhead. There's more cost to not just acquire a new customer, but to maintain that customer. And so those are the first two metrics that I would personally look at, is the unit economics of those two things. I think following that, then we'd want to look at rep productivity. We'd want to look at the funnel, meaning what's the conversion rates between the major metrics within your funnel. For door-to-door field sales companies, it's doors knocked, to conversations, to appointments set, to pitches given, to deals closed, to average deal size. Like, you know it well. And if we're not looking at moving the needle in each one of those key KPIs, then we can't figure out how to grow the business, or even sometimes affect CAC or LTV.
Okay. What would you say are the top three biggest mistakes you see sales leaders make?
In the recruiting process, that we're willing to hire and take anybody, I think is one. That sometimes we just feel like we feel like we need to hire more and more people in order to grow the company, or we don't have a good system in place, so we're just going to hire someone and throw them out there and see if they're successful, and if they are, great, we'll keep you. If not, we'll just throw you out. But there's opportunity cost to all of that. If you just spend so much time trying to train people and onboard them and hire them and ramp them, and they never become successful, you just keep spinning your wheels and you're wasting time. And so I think that's a mistake that a lot of people make. Another mistake, I think, that people often don't hire someone in an operational role soon enough. Meaning that we're going to hire first 5 sales reps, and we're going to put tech out there for them and hope that they can just use the tech, and the tech's going to work by itself. It doesn't always work that way. Tech has to be set up, it has to be configured, it has to be implemented, your reps actually have to go use it. Especially in smaller companies, it's the owner, operator, sometimes a sales manager that's owning that, but they're not as operationally minded in how to implement and set up tech to create a great system or process to work people through. And so I think that people and organizations fail because they don't have operational resources to set up a great system or process to continue to create a repeatable, scalable motion for their sales reps.
No, I think it's very insightful. Thank you. My next question is, how important is it to align sales, recruiting, and marketing all under one umbrella?
Crucial. I think it's the utmost importance. I think that when you have those three groups, if they're not aligned, you just create chaos. And you can't scale chaos.
Yes.
And so if people are going to the wrong areas, if we're producing the wrong leads, if we're trying too hard to convert the wrong type of leads or bringing on the wrong people, you're never going to grow your business. You're never going to grow your team. It's going to create a bad culture, and you won't ever get where you want to be. And so I think, again, going back to chaos and scalability, I think with misalignment, you create chaos and not scalability. And focusing on creating alignment and getting good leaders that can actually cross-collaborate with different departments is important.
So we talked a lot about recruiting. As we switch gears to training that produces closers, when it comes to training videos, like, they're great, but what's the number one thing that new reps actually need in their first week of out on the doors?
First week on the doors, I would say the most important thing that you can instill in a rep is confidence. I don't think there's anything that's more important than first week on the doors. And the reason being is, if it's your first time going out and knocking doors, you're typically as nervous as can be. You don't know what to say. You don't know how to take them on the next step. A lot of times you don't know how to overcome objections. You don't know how to price somebody. And so if you can instill confidence in somebody on week one, they're going to just come out and kill it. And how leaders can instill confidence in their reps, especially during that first week, is you got to celebrate the small wins. I mean, celebrate the first knock, celebrate the first, conversation. Even if it's terrible, celebrate it. You had the conversation. Let's get to the next step. Your first appointment, your first deal, your first pitch, whatever it is, celebrate the early wins, instill confidence in your rep, and I think that accelerates their ability to ramp and to get where you want them to be.
Couldn't agree more. I think that was crucial even for me. When my first door, I was terrified. I can talk to anybody, but then trying to knock their door and try to sell them on something, it was nerve-wracking. But yeah, celebrating those wins. I remember my trainer, we went and got like a Slurpee or something like that to
it's
to
a
celebrate.
small thing.
It's small, but it set me up for success.
Yeah.
What separates an average rep from an elite closer in here in this space?
I would say with elite closers, there's a bit of an obsession about how they do everything. And I think secondarily to that, there's a level of confidence that they have that exuberates from them. When they go out on the doors, they know they're going to get a deal. And that's a big differentiator between a good, average, poor rep and an elite producer. It's just a level of confidence because they're experienced, they know they can do it, they've repeated it day in and day out over and over again. They know that if I went out on the doors and I just talked to 10 people, I'm going to get 4 deals, right? And that's the way that it gets. And then you break it down by hour, you know the numbers, you know what you need to do, and it's a big difference. I look at my experience in my first year. Going back to first week, you experienced it, I experienced it. It's nerve-wracking getting out there. And the difference between me on my first year versus the third year is 100%. It's just confidence. It doesn't matter what product I was selling. I knew that if I just got into a conversation, I could sell somebody. And I could go out and instead of spending 10 hours trying to get one deal, I could go out for 3 hours and get 4 deals. And it's just what you experience, it's the practice, it's the repetition, but at the end of the day, you just know that it's going to happen, and elite reps do that and know that.
So you've coached and mentored reps, right? In your tenure when you're at the doors, what are the patterns you look for in someone who's going to make it? We've talked about confidence, right? That's
confidence
huge.
is a big one, but confidence I think can develop over time. It doesn't always happen right off the gate. And I've also seen really confident people completely fall on their face and not be able to sell doors because for whatever reason, even though they're confident, and we can talk about fake it till you make it, and people just get in there and try and do it. But there's a lot of people that are confident that ultimately fell on the doors. They don't get there. And so I think if we extend beyond that and saying, yes, confidence is important, but there are other attributes and characteristics that I think coincide with that. And I think there has to be a level of determination. You're not going to build confidence if you're not determined and don't continue to keep after it day after day. You have to have a level of humility. I think you have to be able to be coached. I think that you have to also self-analyze yourself, like what's working, what's not working. Going back to top producers or elite producers, they're looking at what they do on one door, and if something doesn't work, they've already analyzed it, and they've changed their behavior and the way that they pitch just in 30 seconds when they're walking to the next door. And it's like, okay, forget about that. Forget about what I said. Forget about how I said that. It came out wrong. It didn't work well. I'm on the next door 30 seconds later, and now here's my more well-perfected pitch that I'm going to do that's going to lead me to a greater probability to convert them to a customer, right?
Exactly. What's a habit or process that seven-figure teams are doing behind the scenes?
Yeah, I think that I'm a big sports guy, and so I think that our sales teams can be related a lot to sports. And so when I look at high-performing sports teams, there's a lot of parallels that we can draw from. You're practicing together every day. High performers and high performers teams, they're learning from one another, they're encouraging each other, they're practicing, they're role playing. It's not that we just every day we're going and playing the game. Yes, we do go out on the doors every day, we do pitch every day, but if you're not practicing and you're not getting feedback, you're not being coached, you're not up leveling yourself as fast as what you could be. And so I think that high performing teams need to practice every day. We just can't show up to a game and expect to be better and better every day. Yes, it does happen, and going out and just getting out on the doors and experiencing it, that's a big part to it, but it's not everything. I also think that people have daily stand-ups, daily meetings, even if it's only 10 or 15 minutes. Being on the doors is hard, and especially earlier in your career when you haven't had success, you don't want to get out on the doors. You drive out to your area and you're like, oh my gosh, it's hot out here. I don't want to be here. And it's just getting out of the door, or getting out of the car, knocking on the first door, and then you're fine and you forget about it. But I think that reps need to be motivated. They need to be fed. They need to be taught. They need to be enlightened on a daily basis. And you can do that in a short amount of time. It doesn't have to be an hour-long meeting. But certainly, if you're meeting for 10, 15 minutes, you're rallying the troops, you're getting them excited, you're working on things, you're reviewing data, you're looking at information, insights, and holding the team accountable every day, you're going to get more out of your team.
Love it. When we're talking about getting more out of your team, oftentimes technology helps drive those results. And like I said, there's a lot of tech in sales right now. What actually moves the needle for field sales teams when it comes to technology?
This might be oversimplifying it, but the best tech that works for field sales companies is generally tech that the salesperson is going to use. And I know that puts a blanket statement, and we're not talking about, well, go use this tool or look at AI and how that's going to change what you're doing, because AI is such a hot topic right now and we want to all implement AI in what we're doing. But the fact of the matter is, if a rep doesn't use the tech, that tech is useless.
Yeah.
And so you have to be smart as an owner and an operator to understand, well, what tech should I be using? When I'm looking at the tech, how does that tech partner with me as a business in order to implement the tech within my business and help to drive adoption? And what's going to delight my reps when they get in there and use it? Is it a clunky interface? Because sales reps are such visual people. And guess what? We want things simple. If it's not visually appealing, if it's not simple, I don't care how great it is, you're not as likely to use it as a salesperson. And so we need to be aware of that. We need to know what our salespeople want, what their needs are, what's going to help move the needle. And the more that you're involved with day-to-day and understanding the mind of a sales rep and finding the right partner that's going to help you implement tech, that tech is going to give you a much better lift than just going finding the new hot tool on the market because we think that we need it. It's like, well, you might, and it might help, but still, if it's brand new tech and it looks amazing, you don't implement it, the tool's not going to do anything for you.
It's useless.
It's useless.
What's the role of data in performance coaching?
Data is everything. If you don't have data, you're running on gut feeling, and gut feeling can only take you so far. You've been in sales, you know it well. I really think that salespeople have what I call recency bias, meaning whatever has happened the most recent, that's what you assume is absolute truth. Meaning, if I go out on the doors and I'm getting rejected all day, every day because people are like, oh, your price is too high, then I think, well, our price is too high, and that's the major reason why I can't sell. And it's like, no, you just actually ran into that objection on the last 10 doors, but your last 100 doors, it's actually, you haven't even made it to the pricing conversation. So whatever you're doing isn't building enough value, so when you get to price, you can close the deal. And so I think a lot of times, so often, we don't look at the data that tells us the trends and insights and what's happening over time. We look at just what's most recent and what have I run into, and we take that as absolute truth when it doesn't tell the whole story. Yes, you have to use your gut feeling. You have to use those insights to be able to supplement the data. But if you don't have the data, you're more likely than not going to make long-term poor decisions without looking at the landscape of what's actually happening.
When should a growing team invest in tech, and when should they just focus on blocking and tackling?
The smaller the company, the more need there is to work on the fundamentals like the blocking and tackling. If you can't get past the blocking and tackling and you're not scaling, there's no need for a lot of tech.
Yeah.
Tech helps you become more efficient. It helps you to create repeatable and scalable systems and processes so that as you bring on more people, you can put them into the system and they're going to be successful with it. If you have one salesperson, you don't need the same amount of tech as if you have 100 salespeople. When you get to 100 salespeople, how do you go and train that many people? You can't have one person just train every single person and spend 10 hours on the doors for 2 weeks straight training all those people. So typically you're going to see a company invest in an LMS, a learning management system, right? So that you can have video training, content. Then you're going to hire someone that just creates that content. But with one rep, it's fundamentals. It's blocking and tackling. It's go out, knock doors. It's review your pitch. Usually the owner and operator is helping to train that person. And sometimes there's little to no tech. But I still think whatever stage you're at, you have to have something to track your numbers, and you have to have something that's going to allow you to hold your reps accountable. I'm not saying that if you're just small, brand new, starting out, that you don't need any tech.
Right.
I'm just saying you need some tech to be able to hold people accountable. If you can't hold people accountable, then you're not going to help them to grow. You're not doing that individuals any favors. And so you have to have something to track metrics and basic things, even if it's a Google spreadsheet, right?
Right.
But there's a lot of free, easy, basic tools out there that you can start out with low cost, and then as you start to scale your team, most of those tech, they have additional plans that you can purchase and you can scale into it, right? But First and foremost, you got to have something to track. How well are we blocking? How well are we tackling? And then you're going to expand from there.
Great, thank you. Talking about leadership and culture and winning as a team, what does great leadership look like to you in a door-to-door organization?
I think there's 3 components. If I could break it down, I'd say it's visibility, it's accountability, and you got to have some empathy as you're out there coaching, mentoring, and hiring people. With visibility, if you can't track what someone is doing out in the field, unless you're walking next to them side by side, how do you help them know what they need to do? Or how do you help them self-coach themselves in what areas of the process that they need to get better at? When it comes to accountability, sometimes we think that by not holding people accountable, that we're being empathetic or that we're being kind to them. But people thrive when they know the right expectations, when they know what you want them to do, and you're holding them to this level of expectations because you want them to be successful, and you know that, hey, knocking 20 doors turns into one conversation, which turns into this and this and this. It's like, just do this and you're going to get to that. And I'm going to hold you accountable. And if I don't see you get 20 doors and 2 sets out of today, then you better believe I'm going to be writing you, and I'm going to be watching everything you're doing tomorrow. I'm going to be texting you, and I'm going to be calling you until I see you get that done, right? And then those reps appreciate it, especially when they see the success. They appreciate that level of accountability and the expectations there. And then empathy, some people struggle. They go through things that are difficult and it's hard. And I think the best coaches know how to balance that accountability and empathy really well to get the most out of people.
Well, how do you scale culture without losing performance? I think empathy definitely is there.
Empathy. I think that in order to maintain culture, I think your culture needs to be simple. Sometimes I think we overcomplicate culture and what it is. I think that if reps know the expectation and what they need to do, you can maintain that culture. If you go out and ask one of your reps, what does success look like? Then that is usually a positive signal to that you have a good culture, because they know what needs to be done to win. And usually winning produces better cultures, and if everyone is winning, you have a great culture, generally speaking. It doesn't always work out that way, but it certainly helps in a major way. So I think that as you scale, you keep things simple, you set the right expectations, everyone knows what their role and responsibility is, and I think it's pretty easy to maintain that culture when you have people within that repeatable cycle within your company.
Definitely. Well, you lead SalesRabbit's entire, go-to-market organization. What's your approach to motivating high performers?
You have to celebrate them. People want to continue to do great things and break records and do more and more because they feel a sense of validation. They feel appreciated, they feel honored, and if you recognize them in public, then they'll continue just to do that over and over and over again. And so you always want to, it's an old saying, right, that goes way back, but recognize and highlight people in public and critique them in private, right?
Yeah.
You want to do that with top performers, and they'll continue to be top performers as you highlight them.
Yeah, what I grew up on was praise in public, put right in private.
Well said.
Thank you. What's one conversation that you think that every team should have with their reps every week?
Yeah, no, I just think that a great conversation that helps reps to think outside of just what they're doing and try and catch a bigger vision is, what do you think needs to happen in order to double your numbers? And I think you leave it as an open-ended question like that, and you'll be surprised with what reps come up with, because it forces them to not only self-analyze what they're doing, it helps them to think outside of just, oh, I need to go and do what I did yesterday. It's like, no, I don't want you to just do what you did yesterday. That's great, but we need to evolve. We need to get better, and I want you to think bigger than the way we're thinking about things today. And when we talk about doubling your sales numbers, well, shoot, that's a whole different conversation than, hey, how do you go out and get 3 sales a day just like you did yesterday? Well, I need to do the same things I did yesterday. It's like, that's great, and that may be successful, but how do we take things to the next level? And I think when we ask open-ended questions like that helps people to cast a bigger vision, to think bigger, it allows reps to not limit themselves as much.
Thank you. All right, so Sean, this is our last little segment here, and then we'll leave some time for you for any closing thoughts that you got. But I'm just gonna ask you like 5 or 6 questions here, and they may be hot takes, they may not be, who knows? And so just one-liners. So, which is harder to coach, underperforming vets or brand new rookies?
Underperforming reps.
Why? Why do you say that?
Typically underperforming reps, they've been in their role for a while and they've usually developed poor habits, or they have too much knowledge or limiting factors that sometimes it's hard to coach around all those things. Whereas someone that's coming in that's brand new, they're curious, their eyes are wide open, and you can teach and coach them most anything that you want. And so I definitely pick the underperforming rep.
Biggest sales mistake that still haunts you?
That still haunts me.
Or maybe a sales situation where you think back like, oh, I should have handled that different.
I think that allowing reps to remain in an underperforming state without correction for too long. Typically earlier in career, you feel like you're having a lot of empathy and you so badly want reps to be successful. You're like, all right, I'm going to spend all this time with you. I'm going to help you. You're my friend. I recruited you. I brought you in here. Like, you will be successful because I know you can be successful if you just do this, and I'm going to help you get there. And you'll even go to the point as a manager, as leader, where it's like, all right, come out on doors with me. I'm going to sell 3 deals for you. I'm going to give those deals to you. Here's $1,000, right? And you just saw me do this. You have 3 deals under your name. I'm going to boost your confidence temporarily. And then they just go back into this underperforming state. And then what do? You kind of go back in the same cycle. And it's like, some people just aren't meant to do it. And I feel like earlier on, I wish I would have been more direct and held people at a higher level of accountability. And not do quite so much for people, because sometimes sales isn't the right thing for them and they need to move on. And I feel like sometimes I try to hold on to reps longer than is needed because I want them to be successful.
What's one door-to-door company crushing it right now?
I would say, instead of a door-to-door company that's crushing calling someone out, I would just give a shout out to 2 industries in particular that I see that's really thriving right now. One of those being roofing and the other being telco. We're seeing a massive amount of success and a lot of people coming in those industries and seeing success. They're industries that have been around for a long, long time. But now all of a sudden they're getting a ton of attention. There's a lot of money being thrown at it. There's a lot of growth and new companies coming into that. And it's incredible to see what some of these companies that are doing, both in telco and roofing, and what they're doing to just take things to a new level, to continue to have a high level of production. The tech that is out there to support these companies is becoming more and more phenomenal every day. Yeah. And so I would shout out more so those 2 industries versus just one particular door-to-door company.
I have to agree. Roofing and telco it's amazing right now. Yeah. Seeing what those industries are doing. What's your favorite leadership book, or one you wish that more sales leaders would read?
That more sales leaders would read. It's a really simple book, but can be so powerful as is a book, Who Moved My Cheese? There's a lot of people in sales that don't read a lot. Early on in a career in sales, people come in and usually there's a high level of confidence. Salespeople have a certain level of swagger that they can just get away with. They've kind of gone through their life with being able to talk their way through things. And I find that there's not a lot of high correlation between someone that has read a ton in their life and starting a sales career. And then usually as you advance your sales career, people start reading a ton. And there's a lot of books out there. But the reason why I pick Who Moved My Cheese in early on as a sales career is because you're going to experience change. You're going to experience how do you need to adapt and evolve based on your circumstances, the market, what's happening, and that book kind of helps you see things in a way that allows you to read, understand the market, what's happening, and move and adapt and evolve to what's happening to continue to have success over and over and over again.
Okay. I'll have to go pick that up. I don't think I've ever read that one.
It's a short one. It's only like 70 pages. It's
Really?
an easy read.
Okay. And last question for you is, what's the most underrated quality in a top rep? One quality that someone might not be able to pick out at first.
Self-awareness is the first thing that comes to my mind, and I would pick that because I think that sometimes in elite reps, we look at them and see them, and there's a high level of confidence sometimes associated with ego, and they're usually well off. Sometimes they're very coin operated and materialistic. So there's a lot of attributes that we think about. But generally speaking, I think that an elite top producer has to be self-aware because they have to be able to continue to analyze what they're doing and take what they're doing to the next level to remain a top producer. And the reason why I say that is because you look at so many people in sales, in sports, whatever it is, when a record is broken, it's setting a new standard, a new bar. And it's likely that someone else is going to see that and be like, oh, if that guy can do it, I can do it. And if that elite performer wants to stay elite, what does he have to do? Set a new bar. And if you're not self-aware of what's working and you're not constantly pushing yourself to become better, you're going to get lapped by somebody else that's more hungry, that's chasing you down. And so you have to have that level of self-awareness of what you can improve on.
Thank you. Well, Sean, thank you for taking some time. Is there any closing thoughts that you have or about sales and growing a sales organization for those who are watching that are either have a company right now or buying a company or starting a company in door-to-door?
If you're starting out, then in door-to-door specifically, I would say that hire and bring on someone that knows door-to-door really well, and it's going to get you to where you want to be a lot faster. So often, and we experience this and see this because at SalesRabbit we work with thousands of companies, right? And so often, I can't tell you how many people will come and reach out to us and be like, hey, we're thinking about starting a door-to-door team. And it's like, have you ever done it? Nope. But we're going to do it because guess what? We heard about this company A, B, or C, and they 2x their revenue in 1 year by just hiring a door-to-door team. And it's like, okay, so who are you going to go hire? Well, we're just going to go put a job posting on Indeed and hope someone comes in. And it's like, okay, well, once you hire that person, then what are you going to do? Well, they're going to go out and knock doors. Okay, well, how are they going to go out and knock doors? What are they going to say when they go knock doors? What are they going to show to people on the doors? How are they going to close the deal? What's going to happen when that deal closes and they have to hand them off to your fulfillment team? And there's all these unanswered questions that a lot of times people don't think about. And so they do all of the right things to try and get it set up to where they think it'll be successful, but they're missing one key element, and it's the fact that they've never done it before. It's really hard to teach somebody how to do something when you've never personally done it. And so if you can find or hire someone that's done it and has been successful, and you bring them on to partner with you to then build out and run your door-to-door program, you're going to increase your likelihood to have success by more than 3x. Like, it's unreal how many people come in and they look at it and think door-to-door is so easy. And when they get into it, they're blown away with how difficult it is and how many people fail at it all the time. It's an art, and it's science, and it's really difficult to get into it if you've never done it before or have someone to help mentor you and coach you through how to do it.
Awesome. No, thanks, Sean, so much for taking some time and being able to sit down with us and chat this through.
Yeah, of course. I'm happy to do it.
Well, thanks, guys, again. This is, again, Sean Huckstep, our CRO here at SalesRabbit, sitting down with us, and we'll catch you on the next one.